Hello and welcome. In this lecture we're going to be polishing off this level. We're going to get it to the point where we can drop the gargoyle statue, we can go through into our new area and make it so that when we're in the mausoleum, we've got a gate over there, we've got a statue here. If we take the statue from its podium, the gate shuts and we can't get out in time, and we need to find something else to put on the podium. Let's dive in and see how we achieve all this. So I want to turn to implementing this final puzzle in the crypt. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to place a podium in the center with a statue on it, and I'm going to put a railing or a gate above that can come down if you take the statue off. So if I look in Medieval Dungeon Meshes and Props, there is the hooded metal golden statue and the statue stand, which I'm going to be using both. So let's go ahead and bring the statue stand in first. We can go into the 4x4 view to make sure I am positioning it roughly in the center. That'll do. And then let's bring in the hooded metal statue. You'll notice absolutely teeny tiny. Goodness me, that's absolutely minuscule. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to increase its scale. I'm just going to hit the lock button next to the scale to make it all go together. Let's try 10 times bigger. That's a bit large, maybe about 6 times bigger is good for this statue. And let's place him on the statue's pedestal and rotate him around. Now you'll notice the scene keeps going dark. Now this is because of the exposure compensation method that's being used in the scene. To change that, we need to go to our add actor, quickly add, basically, go to volumes, and we're going to look for the post-processing volume. I'm going to put that in the scene, right-click on it, and I'm going to move it to the global folder. And then selecting the actor, we're going to go into the details pane. We're going to go to the exposure setting, and we're going to check metering mode here and change the metering mode from auto exposure histogram to auto exposure basic. And you can see that this volume is actually quite a small block. What we can do is we can increase the size of this volume so that it applies to the whole area. So let's reposition it. Scroll down to the brush settings at the bottom where there is the X, Y, and Z sizes. We can increase these and be a little bit generous. So we just want to include everywhere our player can go in our level, like so. And now you can see the lighting is instantly getting better, and we're not having this problem where if we're looking away from a light, everything gets really, really dark. So let's open up the content drawer again, because I want to bring in something from the architecture folder in the dungeon. I want the cell side mesh. So let's bring that in to our level. I'm going to try and position that near the door. And I'm just going to take note of how high up it needs to be for it to be out of the way. So at the moment, the Z position is minus 440. And if I position it at 0, 0, that is out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it down on the floor, and I'm going to add a mover component, and its offset should be positive 440. Because if you think about it, the statue is in the trigger zone, or will be. And when it's in the trigger zone, we want it to lift up by 440. When we remove the statue, it's going to go down by 440 and lock off the area. So the statue needs some collision properties setting up. So we'll go down to the collision presets. We're going to go to custom, and we want the grabber to block this particular object because we want to be able to grab hold of it. And if we go down to the pawn, we want the pawn to be ignored by this particular object so that we don't collide with it. And we're going to need it to generate overlap events as well, because we need it to overlap with our trigger. Talking of trigger, we don't have that yet, so let's select our statue stand and let's add to that a trigger component like so, and then let's reposition that trigger so that it encompasses the statue. And then let's add an acceptable tag, which is going to be unlock 2 for me. And let's select the statue. We'll go to its actor section and add a tag, which is going to have to match as unlock 2. Let's maximize this viewport. And now what we need to do is make that link between the trigger and the mover. And we're going to do this in the level blueprint because we've set this up in the level. These actors aren't connected to each other in any other way. So we're going to go to the blueprint button, go open level blueprint, and then making sure we've got our statue stand selected, we're going to go pull off of begin play, or rather we're going to click in the scene and add a create reference to the statue stand. From this we need to get that trigger component, so we're going to do a get component by class, and we're going to select the class to be the trigger component. So we've got a trigger component class here. Then the other part of the puzzle is to go and select our cell actor. And having that selected, we're going to go into the dungeon level. We're going to right click and create a reference to the cell actor. And then using that cell, we're going to again get component by class. The class that we're looking for this time is the mover. And then pulling off of our return value from the trigger component, we can call set mover and connect up the mover pin and connect up the execution pin to begin play. And the other thing we have to do is select the cell, and we need to make it movable. So if we go to general, we can select movable in there. We probably need to do the same with our hooded statue. That needs to be movable. It already is. Let's go ahead and hit play. And you can see that the cell side has moved out of the way, has reached up to the ceiling because our statue is in the trigger component. But I can't pick the statue up. And the reason for that is that it's currently being held onto by the trigger component and it's being set to not simulate physics. So we need to add that into our grabber CPP. So I'd like to challenge you to activate this statue so that it is ready to move out of that trigger component. To do that, you're going to need to set simulate physics on the hit component. You're going to set it simulate physics to true. You're also going to have to detach the actor, so actor, detach from actor, and you can see that just like we had attachment transform rules, we've got detachment transform rules as well, and for this one as well we're going to be using keep world transform. And then as a bonus, once you take that statue out of the trigger component, you're going to notice that the gate doesn't automatically rise because we've currently got our mover working in only one direction. So as a bonus, make it work both ways. If you put something into the trigger volume, it moves to the goal. And if you take it out, then it moves back to start. So pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So first of all, in the grabber CPP, where we are grabbing things, we've got this wake-all rigid bodies from the hit component. Let's take that hit component and we're going to set simulate physics to true. And then we've got this getting the actor here. I'm going to put that into its own variable. So a actor star hit actor is equal to hit result dot get actor. And then we can replace that. So hit actor tags. And then further down, we're going to detach that actor as well. So hit actor, arrow, detach from actor. And then we're going to do an F, detachment, transform rules, colon, colon, keep world transform, a semicolon at the end of the line. And let's recompile and see if that works. Let's go ahead and hit play and try and pick up our statue. And this time it comes away just perfectly. However, our gate doesn't close as it should do. So how are we going to go ahead and make our gate close? Let's see if we can put the statue back on the stand. So let's stick it over here and there you go. It stays there by itself because it gets automatically attached to the trigger component. So for the mover component of the challenge, the bonus, if we go and open up the mover, which you can do with Control P, by the way, and search for mover, and we can open up the mover CPP, then we can go down to where it's got if should move, and you can see that essentially we want an else statement here that sets the target location just to the original location in the alternative case. And basically the rest of the code needs to run all the time to move to the location. So let's take it all out of our if statement like so and fix up any indentation issues. And essentially what we want is the target location we're going to set it to a default value before the if statement. So the default value is going to be the original location. I'm going to just cut out that move offset. So what we've got is we set up a target location with the original location. So by default, it's going to want to move back to its original location. But if should move is true, then we need to update the target location to be equal to essentially the original location plus the move offset. So that takes us to essentially our goal location. So then later on we calculate the current location, we do the distance and the speed calculation, we do the vinterp constant 2, and we set the new actor location. And one more thing we need to do is change the way we calculate the speed, because here we are looking for the difference between the original location and the target location, which when we set the target location equal to the original location is going to be 0, and so our speed is going to be 0. So instead, well, we know the difference between the target location and the original location is actually the length of the mover offset. So what we can do, instead of calculating the distance this way, which is always a bit wasteful, is we can do a move offset dot length and divide that through by the move time. So that's needs some parentheses because it's a function, move offset dot length parentheses divided by the move time. Let's recompile and try that out. Go ahead and hit play, pick up our statue, and you can see the gate goes to closed. I didn't quite let it open, so you maybe didn't see that it goes the whole way. But if I drop the statue in its place, it lifts all the way up to the top. Take the statue off, and it goes all the way back down to the bottom. Great stuff. So now all that remains for me to do is add a little pot or something that we can take for the puzzle. So I'm going to go into the meshes under the props. I'm going to find a little complete pot and put it by this other door on the other side. So there's a little bit of a challenge trying to find something we can put in the statue's place. I'm going to set it to generate overlap events, just like the statue. The collision presets we need to set to custom. We're going to change that so that the grabber can grab it, so put it to block, and that it doesn't overlap the pawn. And we're going to go to the actor tags, add a tag for unlock 2. And then the final thing we need to go and do is set it to movable. Let's go ahead and hit play and see if we can grab this pot. Yep, looks like we can. Let's go and take it through into this mausoleum area. We can take off the statue, take our pot and stick it in its place. And you can see that it opens up, and we can take the statue and make a run for it. Fantastic. So in this lecture, we've tidied up the rest of our level and completed the game. That involved making a few code changes, including making the mover move back and allowing the grabber to detach things that it picks up and set them to simulate physics. Great stuff. I'll see you in the next lecture.